Guys, we need to talk. We live in a world today in which the primary role models for young men are people like Andrew bloody Tate.
You're going to regret it for a very long time.
Either that or people on the other side of the divide that want us to reject the very notion of masculinity altogether.
Men are trash.
I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that this is catastrophic. In this video, I'm going to explain how this has happened, why it's so bad, and most importantly, what we're going to do to reclaim positive masculinity before it's too late. The future of our sons and daughters really does depend on us not f***ing this up. So, let's look at this Tate guy that is all the rage with pubescent boys for a second, shall we?
I do know how to administer CPR. However, I will not administer CPR unless you're a hot female.
You know when you're with your boys and you're loud, and you feel aggressive, and you're about it, and you'll talk to that bitch. Who cares if she says no?
The guy who got that boat needed $100 million. That bitch, makeup.
Bitch, bring some paper towels. We're doing a fucking podcast.
Nice guy, right? And I found this choice clip as well.
Graduated Hustleversity with a PhD. Wait, you're a doctor? No, that's the pimping hose degree, which is something, by the way, I didn't make up. It's a course that Andrew Tate himself sells.
It's good to laugh, but clearly we need to be concerned that guys like this are the role models for the next generation of boys. The question is, how did we get here?
Good question.
We got us here.
What you talking about, was?
Yes, you and me, what with your men are trash and toxic masculinity hashtags. This is a result of that. You and I may not be using these hashtags ourselves, but we have let them take hold. We're stuck here because we're all just cannon fodder in a battle between the alt-right and the aggressive progressives. Let me explain. Remember back in 2019, I got into a debate on Twitter, you know, as you do. It was about the men are trash hashtag, and it started with this tweet. The guy said, if you argue the semantics of men are trash, then you don't care about the issues of violence, rape, abuse, and inequality. If you cared about these things, then a provocative statement that aims to highlight the cultures of toxic masculinity and GBV would be your last concern.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
Now my response was simple. As the father of a daughter, I absolutely care about the issues raised above. As the father of a son, though, I'm vehemently opposed to the men are trash rhetoric. There are a number of reasons for this, not least of which is the fact that it simply harms more than it helps. The idea that I would tell my son that his penis makes him trash is a sign of solidarity with feminist ideals is simply absurd child abuse that will do more damage in the long run. Progress will happen when we seek to unify and not divide. I support men must do better as it acknowledges the problem and drives us forward. I see the use of men are trash as a declaration of divisiveness and the sign of someone seeking to fight and not fix. Look, the term toxic masculinity has been bandied around so much now that we see it as a prefix. And it's not saying that some masculinity that's toxic. It's saying that masculinity is in and of itself toxic. Unless, of course, it's displayed by a woman, if Evangeline Lilly is to be believed.
Why are we only applauding masculinity in women and villainizing it in men? And why are we only applauding femininity in men and debasing it in women?
Go, Kate. She's not wrong. Which is wrong. Back to the point though. If you don't believe me, why not try doing a search for the hashtag #NotAllMen on social media, and you will see the instant put-downs and accusations of misogyny. You either agree that men are trash or you are trash. The judges of Salem would be oh so proud.
Burn the wish! Burn the wish!
You need to understand that putting down your sons is not a good strategy to uplift your daughters. And yet, this is the world that the next generation of young men are growing up in. My son told me that he refused to ask a girl to his matric dance. That's senior prom to my American friends. Because if he did, he'd risk being accused of being a misogynist. What?
I have no words.
And woe betide any man anywhere that wants to explain something, anything. If you do, you're just
Mansplaining.
Mansplaining. Mansplaining.
Mansplaining. Mansplaining to me right now?
So, instead, we cower in the corner, scared to speak up. We really are shadows of our former selves. And it's no wonder that an identity crisis has ensued. Either you are a spineless metrosexual shell of a man or you are an abuser. But to quote my liberal friends here, it's not a binary, it's a spectrum. And believe it or not, the vast majority of men exist in the middle of that spectrum. You know who I'm talking about, right? Your father, your brothers, your sons, your cousins, your friends. And you're not the exception because they are not the exception. And so, confused by their own masculine identity, an identity that can apparently only be celebrated if you were born a woman and choose it later, young boys are forced to look to the only men that are willing to step up as role models. And they are the toxic ones.
Man, I hate those guys.
Toxic masculinity is then a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Holy shit.
Like I said, we made this. And it's time that we unmake it. The good news is that it's not hard to do. Instead of defining manhood by its worst characteristics, let's start shining a light on the good ones. Do you remember the fable of the two wolves? Inside every young man are two wolves fighting, a good one and a bad one. You know which one wins, right? It's the one that you feed. Well, answer me this. Which wolf do you think you are feeding when boys grow up hearing the rhetoric of toxic masculinity and that men are trash? Every time you tell young men that they are toxic by birth, you are feeding the wrong wolf. If, on the other hand, you instill and celebrate the positive values and virtues of masculinity, then you feed the right one. If we do this, we'll create a generation of strong, disciplined, balanced, loving young men. Men that will make great fathers, men that will make great husbands, men that will make great sons. And the world is full of men like that.
Damn straight.
Here's the thing. I know that the vast majority of people out there agree with me here. I know that you know wonderful men, and I know that you don't want the likes of Tate to be the role models that people are looking up to.
That guy is the worst.
But I also know that you are afraid of the aggressive progressives, afraid to stand up to the people labeling every man in your life as toxic or trash, afraid that if you speak up, you will be shut down. But I'm asking you to be brave though. I'm asking you to be as strongly opposed to the negative narrative around men as you are to the negative attributes of men. Neither must have its place. Let us commit to building a generation of strong, driven, supportive young men, proud of their positive masculinity. Let's commit to building a generation of men that learns both from the mistakes of their predecessors, but also learns from their virtues. And lastly though, let's commit to shutting down any narrative that vilifies young men simply because of the gender that they were born into. The last thing the world needs is more divisiveness. It's time to reclaim our narratives from the vocal zealots on both edges, hell-bent on shutting us up. There are more of us. We've just been hiding. Enough now. We need to stand up and we need to lead loud.